scripture. Well, actually, we're not going to start off. I'm going to ask a question first, but then we're going to read a bunch of scriptures, and we'll see where we go from there. But in your mind, and hopefully some of you might have something to say here, what is, or name some important things in our lives that can help us to be lights and examples to those around us, or that can hinder us in being lights and example. Like, what's some of the most important things that we can or can't do? And I can give you an example if you're thinking. Something that would keep us from being a light, or that can help us to be a light, is how friendly we are. If you're rude to people, what's that going to do? Yeah, it's not going to attract people, right? It's not going to make you a good example. If you are friendly, people tend to like to talk to you and be around you or something. So those of us who tend toward, and I put myself in that category, tend toward not being outgoing and friendly, have to make an effort to make sure that we don't turn people off, right? And those who are friendly, there's such a thing as being too friendly as well, so you got to watch that too. Trying to ask for too much personal information early on in a relationship can be a problem, right? Okay, but what other things can you guys think of that are important for us to be lights and examples to those around us? Right, and how do you do that?
Just the way you carry yourself and how you act every day.
All right, so how you act, the actions we take, how we spend our time can be something important there. Do we go to places we shouldn't be? Do we spend our time watching a lot of things that we shouldn't watch? These days, entertainment, everything is bad. Like there's almost nothing good out there as far as that goes. So how much time do you spend watching stuff that's not good? That's the question. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't watch any. I'm guilty of watching stuff, but how much of your time do you spend doing that versus profitable things and other things? How we dress? Do we dress appropriately? Are we immodest? Are we modest? Those kind of things can impact how we, our example to other people. Anybody think of anything else? I got a little list here. I can go down it, but if anybody has anything.
Well, one thing that bothers me about people is the way they try to make themselves look so high and mighty. Like they're people.
Well, that's something that'll turn people off in a hurry, is if you're, what is that called? Self-righteous, right?
Yeah.
Like where you try to put on a show. Yeah, that not being real. And that might relate to something that I say here. Being honest is something that I put down. Like if people can't trust you, that's going to really hurt your ability to be an example or a light to them, right? If you don't follow through on what you say, that's going to cause a problem. Here's a couple of the other things that I thought about. When we work, do we do our best? Like, do people, like, when they see us working, do they know that we're doing a good job, or are we just pretty flippant about it? Are we faithful to our family and friends? Do we speak poorly of our family to other people? Do we cut them down, or do we back them up? Those kind of things. That can definitely be an important thing. And then the thing that we're going to talk about today, which you can tell if you see the scriptures up there, is we're going to talk about how we speak. The things we say, do we use the right words and language? So, of course, the major thing you think of when you talk about that, and this falls under a class that I did on moral issues, would be profanity and use of bad language. But there's a lot more to it than just certain words. It's how we speak in general, right? So Our tongue is a major piece that can make us a shining light or a major failure when it comes to how we reflect for other people. And the tongue is something that's very difficult to bring under control. And as we go through this lesson, keep in mind, I'm probably going to step on everybody's toes, all of ours, because the tongue is something very difficult to bring under control, right? So we're going to step on everybody's toes, but I'm not intending to step on anybody's toes. Like, that's not the goal. Like, I'm not thinking of any person here or anything like that as far as anything that we're going to cover. In fact, I didn't think of any people whenever I was doing this. This is just simply ideas that I had. But
see our faces and we're doing this.
yeah. So we're going to try not to offend anybody, except for where they need to be offended. Like, that's the goal here. And hopefully that makes us think. Hopefully we think about things that we're doing as we go through this. But first thing we're going to do is see what God's word says about our speech. So I asked the guys if they could take turns reading a bunch of scriptures here. The first scriptures are all from Proverbs, and then we're going to go down and do a few from the New Testament. So whichever one of you wants to read Proverbs, you guys can just go down through and read all of those, and then I'll have a couple words about them.
Proverbs 10, 11 through 14. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all transgressions. On the lips of the discerning, wisdom is found, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks understanding. Wise men store up knowledge, but with the mouth of the foolish, ruin is at hand. Proverbs 10, 20, 21. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. The heart of the wicked is worth little. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die from lack of understanding. Proverbs 13, 2, 3. From the fruit of the man's mouth he enjoys good, but the desire of the treacherous is violence. The one who guards his mouth preserves his life. The one who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. And finally, Proverbs 17, 27, 28. He who restrains his words has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. Even a fool, when he keeps silent, is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is considered prudent.
All right, so reading through those scriptures, what are some things, how would you summarize that? What are some things that stand out? Anything?
I like when it said even a fool when he keeps silent is considered.
Yeah, I think, so what does that mean when it says even a fool is considered wise when he keeps his mouth closed? I think there's another, I forget if this is just a proverb out there or if it's actually in Proverbs somewhere else, but better to keep silent and let everybody think you're a fool than to prove it. That's definitely not Proverbs. That's just something I've heard somewhere else.
Confucius.
Yeah. Confucius.
Confucius
Okay.
say
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a take off of a little bit of what's said here in Proverbs.
Makes me think of like what I've been told. What you tell
Yeah.
your kids if you don't have anything nice to say.
Don't say it at all. That's yep. So what does that mean? Like, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't never say anything, right? I mean, just because you're not the smartest person in the room doesn't mean you should stay quiet the whole time, right? What it means that we need to be careful about what we say, right? We need to think about it. Don't open your mouth and act like you know something that you don't know anything about. Also, I think some things that come through here is just talking about how we speak. The way we talk plays a major role in the way people view us, right? Like not just talking about whether you're ignorant or smart or intelligent or what any of that stuff. Just the way we speak. The way we talk will play a major role as people look at us, I think. That's kind of what I get from those. And it also talks about how important saying good things is. Like, it talks about life coming from the righteous, where ruin comes from people who are wicked. So the way, it's an important part of our lives, huge part of our lives. All right, so let's go over to Matthew 12. (34 through 37).
You brood of vipers, how can you be evil, speak what is good? For the mouth speaks which fills the heart. The good man brings out his good treasure, what is good, and the evil man brings out his evil treasure, what is evil. But I tell you that every careless word that people speak, they shall give accounting for it on the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Romans 12.
Hold up right there. We'll do Romans here in just a second. All right, so Jesus speaking here, talking to, who's he talking to? Where he says, you brood of vipers. Pharisees, right? Usually whenever you see something like that happening, Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. But it says, the important thing that it says here is the mouth speaks out of the heart, or from the heart, right? So the way we talk indicates what's on our inside. It reveals what we're like. And it's also important, of course, because it talks about here about careless speech. Are anybody guilty of saying things that we shouldn't, that we don't mean to say? Yeah, we all are, right? And we'll talk about that more, but it's just really, once you say something, you can't take it back, right? Sometimes you wish you could, but you can't. It's out there. We'll be judged by our words. What does that mean? Is how we talk a heaven or hell issue, as some people might say? It could be. I don't think it means that if we make mistakes that we're in trouble. I mean, we all make mistakes, right? But in general, we better be trying to say the right things, right? All right, Romans 12, 9 through 14.
Let love be without hypocrisy. Harbor what is evil, cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Give preference to one another in honor, not lagging behind in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, persevering in tribulation, devoted to prayer, contributing to the needs of the saints, practicing hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless those who do not curse.
Okay. And actually, if you keep on going there, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Be of the same mind toward one another. Do not be haughty in mind, but associate with the lowly. Do not be wise in your own estimation. Now, excuse me. Is that scripture familiar to you guys? It should be to those of you who are in this Bible class often, because that's one of Jimmy's go-to scriptures, right? Let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor what is evil. Now, he's focusing on something different than what I'm focusing on here, but we're to bless those who persecute you, bless and curse not, and rejoice with those who rejoice. Like, what's the point here? I'd say how we talk to others shows them whether we care for them or not, and whether we love them. Back in Proverbs, I think it talks about a soft-spoken word or a right-spoken word. I forget the exact language there. At the right time, what the impact of that can be, how important that is. So how we talk to others can show what we think about them. Ephesians 4, 14 through 16 and 25 through 29.
As a result, we are no longer to be children, tossed here and there by waves and carried about by every wind of doctrine, by the trickery of men, by craftiness and deceitful scheming. But speaking the truth in love, we are now to grow up in all aspects into Him who is at the head, even Christ, from whom the whole body, being fitted and held together by whatever joint supplies, according to the proper working of each individual part, causes the growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. Ephesians 4:25 through 29. Therefore, laying aside falsehood, speak truth each one of you with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be angry, and yet do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not give the devil an opportunity. He who steals must steal no longer, but rather must labor, performing with his own hands what is good, so that he will have something to share with one who has need. Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification according to the need of the moment, so that it will give grace to those who hear.
All right, so there's a lot here in this passage, but we're to speak the truth. We talked about that just a moment ago, right? We're to speak the truth. What is it that, some people use the truth as an excuse for being mean to people, right? Like, well, they just need to hear the truth. So how are we supposed to, what does it say about how we're supposed to speak the truth? In love, right? So yeah, sometimes people need to hear hard things, but how we go about doing that's pretty important, right? Like, we're not supposed to just not be inconsiderate and just throw things at people. When are we most guilty, do you think, of saying things that we shouldn't? When we're angry, right? And that's addressed here, right? Don't let the sun go down on your anger. And when do unwholesome words proceed from our mouths? Oftentimes when we're angry or hurt, whenever you hurt yourself, sometimes some words that you're not supposed to say might come to mind. So we're supposed to keep control over ourselves in those situations, right? And then what are we supposed to do? Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification. So that means things that are encouraging to others. That's what we're to try to do. We need to think about how what we say will impact others, basically. Even when we're not even talking to someone else, even when you're just talking to yourself, that can be important. All right, Colossians 3, 8 through 10, and 4, 5 through 6.
But now you also put on the side anger, wrath, malice, and slander, and abusive speech from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you laid aside your old self with its evil practices. And you will put on a new self, who is renewed in a new true knowledge, according to the image of the one who created him. Colossians 4, 5 through 6. Conduct yourselves with wisdom toward outsiders, making the most of the opportunity. Let your speech also be with grace, through seasoned with salt, so that you would know how you should respond to each other. And then Titus 2 through...
Yeah, hold on before we go to Titus there. All right, so here, what I saw the most here is, like, we shouldn't use crude language, right? People who like to tell crude jokes, or people who speak like just the language is horrible, those kind of things. What does he say instead? Our speech is to be with grace, seasoned as it were with salt. So do people notice if you talk differently than they do? For sure, right? And these days, bad language is pretty much filtered into everything. I have my beliefs as to why that happened. We'll talk about that. Hopefully, if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about that here. But people notice, and we are to make special effort to talk that way, to speak with grace, and not to be crude. All right, go ahead then, DP. This kind of go ahead. You mean what our language is?
Well, how we talk or how we behave has a lot to do with the people we.
Yeah, you're getting. Yeah, that's something I wanted to cover. Yeah, who you hang around with and who you talk to. Now then, here's an example. If you're in NASCAR, if your job is in NASCAR, has anybody heard the way that the language that goes on around a NASCAR track amongst the drivers and the crews and everything? You guys aren't familiar with that? It's not good. Let's just put it that way. So if that's your job, you can't get away from it. So what are you supposed to do? Or in the military is another example, I think, of where there's a lot of language that goes on in the job, police force, anything like that. What as a Christian, what are you to do? Are you supposed to speak and say the same words they do? No, right? That's how you stand out. That's how you are an example, is by not talking that way. We can't let that impact us. And that's kind of the point. The bad language is all around us, everywhere. In fact, you can't, if you're online, you can't get away from it. Like, you just can't. It's everywhere. If you look online anywhere. So we have to make an effort to not let that influence us and to be different. So yeah, that was something I was going to get to a little bit later on, but we can go ahead and jump to that right now. All right. Anybody have any other comments before DP reads the next one, Titus 2, 6 through 8? All right, go ahead, DP.
Likewise, urge the young men to be sensible. In all things, show yourself to be example of good deeds, with purity in doctrine, dignified, sound in speech, which is beyond reproach, so that the opponent will be put to shame, have nothing bad to say about us.
All right, so we're to use sound speech. What does that mean, sound speech? Yeah, it can. I mean,
Like how they say like sound advice, but I don't know how that.
yeah, sound advice, sound speech.
Yeah.
I think it means well thought out,
Yes.
reasoned, not off the cuff, not off the fly. Don't say something that you don't know anything about. Going back to Proverbs, don't try to act like you know things that you don't know. Right. People notice it. Yeah, it's very noticeable. This is one of the areas where we can be an example very quickly, very easily, but not easily, right? It's not an easy thing, but it's something where you'll stand out very quickly if you're not speaking like other people. So sound speech, I think, goes back to all the stuff that we've been talking about. Reasoned out, not using bad language, talking in a way that people know what you're saying. And not getting stuck going down rabbit holes. Not arguing about things. There's another passage that talks about that, not arguing about things that Paul, I think, with Timothy, about just, what do you call it? What does he call it? This is why I don't have verses memorized, but where he talks about gossip or whatever, where he's like, just don't go off on things that aren't worth talking. It's called yeah, tangents, but he uses a word, and I can't think of the word right now. That's annoying when I can't think of it. But
The word is right fighter. Or do you want to be right or do you want to be left?
worthless controversies. I can't remember the word, but those kind of like just things that are just not worth talking about. Those things. So we're to use sound speech. That means that we should talk well, and I would say that means not using bad language, not making fun of people, telling crude jokes, and also what we say should be reasoned through, like what we were talking about. So why are we to be of sound speech? What does it say? What's the reason? To be a good example, right? So that people can't blame you or point to you as being, well, look at the way you talk. Like if you're trying to teach somebody to be a Christian and they're like, look at the way this person talks. You can't really do it, right? So that others will know that we're Christians by the way we speak and cannot make claims against us, basically. All right, last passage that we're going to read here, and you can't do a talk about how we talk without going to James. So let's go to James 3, if one of you guys wants to read chapter 3, verses 1 through 12.
Let not many of you become teachers, my brethren, knowing that as such we will incur a stricter judgment. For we all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able to bridle the whole body as well. Now if we put the bits into the horse's mouth so that they will obey us, we direct their entire body as well. Look at the ships also, though they are so great and are driven by strong winds, are still directed by a very small rudder, wherever the inclination of the pilot desires. So also the tongue is a small part of the body, and yet it boasts of great things. See how great a forest is set aflame by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, the very world of iniquity. The tongue is set among our members as that which defiles the entire body and sets on fire the course of our life, and it is set on fire by hell. For every species of beasts and birds and of reptiles and creatures of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by the human race. But no one can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil and full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come both blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things are not to be this way. Does the fountain send out from the same opening both fresh and bitter water? Can a fig tree, my brethren, produce olives, or a vine produce figs? Nor can salt water produce fresh.
All right, thanks guys for reading all that. All right, so James, I'm assuming most all of you are familiar with this passage. It's a pretty common passage that we talk about with dealing with our speech. There's a lot here. We're not going to actually go through the passage itself all the way through, but I just wanted to point out, some of the things here. We have to make a great effort to control our tongue, right? Our speech. That's what it's saying. We have to make great effort. Why? Because it's such a small thing, and yet it has the capability of doing so much, either good or bad, right? What are some things that James says about our mouth or our tongue that you see here? Give me a quick list.
Sometimes it's better just to be quiet and listen. I come to find that when family gets together, there's always one person in my family that just sits in the corner. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't do anything. She just listens.
Yeah.
And by listening, I think she gains knowledge to where she can.
Yeah, I think that is. There's sometimes it's beneficial to listen. I don't think it's. I mean, if everybody listened, then there'd never be anybody talking. So you have to talk sometimes, but I think. Yeah.
But usually she just sits and listens to what everybody has to say.
But I think there's definitely a benefit to taking the time to listen to people, and we should. That's something most of us are probably guilty on the other side of trying to talk too much as opposed to listen. But what does James say about it here?
Good things can come out of your mouth and bad things can come out of your mouth.
Yep. So he says there's out of your mouth both good and bad come. And he specifically says, you bless and you curse. Well, and he says this shouldn't be. We should not be speaking both ways, right? We should be doing one or the other, basically. Of course, the one we should be doing is blessing and not cursing. So you have, it shouldn't be. We shouldn't be producing both good and bad speech. I think he also says the mouth is very difficult to control. Not impossible. I don't think he's indicating impossible, but difficult. It's almost impossible, but we should strive to control it, right? And then he also says that even when we say just a little bit, it can mean a lot. A little spark can start a forest fire. A rudder can control a big ship. What's the other thing that he talks about up there? Is that both of them? Yeah, that's both of them. So he's using examples of things that are small but control or start big things, right? So it only takes a spark to get a fire going, right? That's a song we know. So you can get into a lot of trouble with what you say, or you can do a lot of good with a little word here and there. So it can go either way. All right, so that's the scriptures. We have about 10 minutes left to talk. So we'll see if we can get through the rest of what I want to talk about. So first off, what is profanity? What does it mean to profane something?
I heard it
something to get a point across. Okay, that's my next question. Why do people use profanity? So, yeah, to try to get a point across can be the reason. And my next question, follow-up question on that is, does that actually work? Does using profanity actually make more of a point? It doesn't make more of a point. It adds emphasis, I would say. It doesn't help with the point. It doesn't do anything as far as the point goes, but it can add emphasis to it. All right, so something you might use when you're angry, or a word that comes out. What is actual profanity? It's one of the elements of it is irreverence or contempt for God. To profane God. Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. You guys know what's in Exodus 20, right? There's the 10 commandments there. You shall not take the name of your Lord God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. So that's one thing that's profanity, the use of God's name in vain. That's pretty prominent in our language. In fact, I was talking with my wife about that last night, and she was talking about how people who learn the American language from TV or from people, like, they think, oh my God, is like just an exclamatory phrase that you should use. Now, it is just an exclamatory phrase because that's what it's become in our culture, but it's not something we should use as our ordinary course. It's belittling, showing irreverence and contempt. And that's another definition: to scorn, belittle, or disrespect, to desecrate or misuse anything that should be respected. That's the profane. And then, of course, bad or inappropriate language, like you talked about, that's also falls under profanity, like what we're talking about. So that's profanity. Why do people curse or use profanity? We already covered the one where, to emphasize something or to try to make a point. What's that? While watching sports. So out of anger, when you're angry, we talked about that already, right? That you might do that. What are some other reasons that people use bad language?
People use it, I think, as a form of authority to try to be.
Yeah, well, that kind of falls under that same thing, to reinforce your statement or to try to think it sounds smart, try to sound like you're stronger or more intelligent. I'll tell you, I was watching one movie and the language in it was so bad. The one guy just every other word was the F-bomb, and I was like, this guy sounds ignorant, like he doesn't know any other word. Like, it's just stupid. And usually whenever a movie's that bad, that's it, just turn that off. But
that's one of the shames too is people will tend to, I've worked with people in the past that I've lost the conversation because they're not angry. It's just a part of their.
Yeah, it's just normal language. Well, okay.
But then it's just like the old saying, they say it in such a way, it comes off their tongue like poetry.
Mm-hmm.
They're not saying it to be angry.
They don't know.
I think people today, specifically the F-bomb, as it's referred to, is being used a lot. Where do you think that, it was always there, but I think it's being used in normal everyday language. Like, I hear it being used by everybody, just out in the open. It used to be, you don't say that out in the open to people. It was more in private conversations or whatever. But now it's out in the open everywhere. Like, I hear it everywhere. So you're at the gas station, at the grocery store, wherever you go, you hear people like this. It's just their normal language, right? So what do you think led to that? I have an opinion on it. Why is it so open now? Besides the fact that our president uses it sometimes. That's after the fact, because that started a while ago. But so why is that happening? What's happened to it? Why is it so open in our nation now? Media, yeah, Netflix. I blame it on Netflix. Whenever you first started watching Netflix, because they're not under the same as the things. You go on, Cobra Kai, which is supposed to be geared towards younger people, teenagers, kids. Language in that's horrible. if you've ever watched any of it. It's terrible. So, I mean, shows that are for kids are loaded with all this language, and it's just normal speak. And of course, there's a lot more than that to it as well, but more than just Netflix. But that's where I really started noticing it, like just regular shows that you would want to watch, except for they'd load them up with all this stuff nowadays. I don't go to any. I haven't been to a movie in a long time, like once a year maybe. Yeah. So there's really nothing, not much out there that's worth watching at this point. Maybe there never was, but there's definitely nothing now. So yeah, I think people use it because that's what they hear. Everybody else is using it. So everybody's speaking that way. I also think people can use it as a form of rebellion, to be rebellious. And we already covered, anger or frustration. All right, we're heading toward the end of class here, and I still got a lot of questions to ask, so we're not going to make it through everything, I don't think. But what's your opinion of somebody that uses a lot of bad language? What's your view of that person?
I don't consider him being a very well-educated person.
Sometimes you might think that you question their education, maybe. Do you think that person's a Christian? Like, is that your first thought if somebody's using a lot of bad language? So what does that say about us? Like, what we ought to think about our language if that's our view? Like, if we see somebody else that's using a lot of bad language and we think, well, that person's probably not a Christian, what does that mean for us?
For me, it's sometimes memories before I became a Christian.
Okay. Yeah, and I know a lot of people who claim to be Christians or who are Christians. I mean, I say claim just because I don't know their full stories or anything. A lot of actors out there and all that. I don't know what they are, but who claim to be Christians who use horrible language all the time. And for them, it's probably different than it is to me, as far as the way you view it. But it's something to consider. What we're talking about here, like how does our language affect our example and our light? And a lot of those people who use bad language, I think, still are good lights for the most part. Like they're setting good examples in other areas, and trying and Hollywood's not very friendly toward Christians in general. So they are doing some things there, but I think that the language does hurt their ability to do that. So you might have a lower opinion of a person. I think that's what you were talking about. If the only word they know is a bad word, like it just lowers your opinion of them. All right, we have like 1 minute. I'll ask. Yes.
Who made up the bad words?
Who made up the bad words?
The person that's Or I guess like the intention behind it. Like,
I don't really know exactly what the origin of all bad words are. I mean, I think we know that's why Paul uses the one word that Jimmy likes to talk about, rubbish, but it's a little stronger word than that, right? In the Bible to emphasize, right? We talk about emphasizing a point, to emphasize that it's not worth anything. Nothing's worth anything other than going to heaven, right? Other than that's what he's saying whenever he says, I count all things but rubbish. All right, well.
Real quick, out of anger, everybody remembers the show Happy Days. Richie's dad, whenever he would get angry, his swear was, "Oh, Jiminy Cricket."
Okay, yeah, if I had time, we were going to talk about that. What about words that are used to substitute for bad words? What about slang words? You know what? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll do it Wednesday night or something. I don't know. If next time I talk, there won't be a full lesson, but maybe we'll finish this up. But yeah, we use terms like shoot. Is that bad? Gosh, is that bad? Yeah. Those kind of words. What do you think about those kind of words? I think each person has to make their own decision related to that. I think the less you use of them, the better it is. You know, but we're all going to use some kind of a word for things. So what word do you use? So all right, well we're totally out of time here. We'll be back for worship in about not quite 15 minutes, and hope everybody can be back with us. Thanks.